Hello and welcome to Inside Edition. We're going to discuss national and regional issues in depth. Today we will be discussing the ambitious vision of the Gulf Cooperation Council to activate its role in the region with political analyst and researcher Mr. Mahmood AbdulGhaffar. We will also review GCC's success in having a more proactive role to serve the development of the Arabian Gulf. But first, let's look at this report.
May 25th of 1981 marked the official initiation of the Gulf Cooperation Council, bringing together the Arabian Gulf countries in joint action out of their awareness of their special relations, common characteristics, and similar ruling policies based on mutual religion and traditions. The GCC states managed to make great accomplishments by bolstering cooperation and integration among member states in different fields, ranging from politics, economy, defense, and security, and by harnessing efforts and capabilities to back international causes and brotherly and friendly countries.
I'm very much in favor of regional cooperation, because this is absolutely what you need, because the region is in turmoil. There are some strategic threats, and you need to cooperate in order to get things right in this part of the world. You face huge challenges, and you have to deal with them, and that can only be done through cooperation.
The Kingdom of Bahrain is a key member of the GCC that continues to interact with regional and international issues in a way that contribute to the development of the Council's march. Such relations among the GCC states, with their shared deep-rooted history, contributed to launching a strategic partnership that strengthens them politically and economically and makes them more capable of influencing the global decision-making process within a unified entity. The role of this entity is undeniable, as the GCC is not a bystander when it comes to regional and international security. GCC has always had this mark in the region, as it has always been part of all initiatives and efforts to deal with the fast-paced developments across the area, to enhance joint cooperation and coordination in the face of all threats and challenges, in addition to achieving the best interests of all countries. Regarding its regional role, the GCC policy towards crises in the region from Yemen, Libya, and Iraq to Syria is based on clear principles, with the top priority being the preservation of security and stability of Arab countries, and standing beside them in their efforts to realize interests of their peoples and serve their aspirations through development, stability, and progress.
Welcome back. Joining us in the studio now is Mr. Mahmood AbdulGhaffar. Thank you for being a guest on our show.
Yeah.
After watching this report, how do you evaluate the GCC's challenges that are facing them, and how will they deal with these regional challenges?
Well, you see, the GCC actually is very accustomed to becoming a security guarantor within the region. Of course, the GCC itself was established in 1981, but the actual defense command, or the efforts to build a common defense force, was created in 1984. So, and their experiences extend for almost 30 years now. The GCC actually deployed 3,000 troops to liberate Kuwait during the operation there. And again, they were called up again in 2003 to secure Kuwait's border, and I believe they deployed around 10,000 troops and 2 ships to maintain the maritime sovereignty of Kuwait, a very key ally within the GCC, of course, as well. And then again in December 13th, 2013, we actually developed a joint military command as the next step to develop defense force cooperation between the 6 GCC member states. And in this regard, as actually in 2016, under the leadership of Saudi Arabia, we've underwent a tremendous military drill known as Northern Thunder, which involved all GCC states, and with a total of 21 countries participating in the exercise. And this has actually never occurred before in the GCC on this scale. So you can see we've actually becoming a lot more pragmatic and self-reliant in our defense needs. And this is actually coincides with the direction that the world is heading now. We are becoming a lot more multipolar world where we have much more regional actors becoming involved in the affairs of their specific regions. So there's a lot more dependency on regional actors to step up and take a role within our affairs, and that's exactly what the GCC is doing. And you can see these developments occurring the past 10 years, and all the actions that the GCC have been taking are actually reflecting this reality now.
I mean, the challenges that you mentioned now are pertaining mostly to the security.
Yes.
Are there any other challenges that might be facing the GCC?
Of course, I mean, you always have the energy file. It's very important now. In the past through a couple of years now, you can see that oil prices have dropped tremendously. And this just goes to show that OPEC may not have the same clout as they used to. Now we have the shale revolution occurring in the US and other areas. And we're getting more producers on the field, and maybe now the oil prices might fluctuate even more. And of course, and in this regard, this actually affects the GCC directly because it's a global market, and the GCC is part of this global market as they're one of the main suppliers for energy around the world. And also on the economic side, there's been a lot of backlash, as you could say, towards more globalized endeavors and international organizations. We see the reactions to the EU and how different countries are not happy with their policies, and you see different calls to actually be a little bit more isolationist, especially in the US now with the election of Donald Trump, who is now going to be the 45th president of the United States. There's a slight retreat from the international field. This is because it's a reaction to all the developments that have been taking place for the past 30 years in terms of globalization. And actually, this actually puts the GCC in a very precarious situation because there's a lot of uncertainty going forward.
Yes. You mentioned something very important. I mean, the EU Council's decisions have been always been impacted because of their relationships also between the separate countries. Is that something that will affect the GCC Council or the Union, the deep-rooted relations between the GCC countries?
Well, the GCC will definitely look to the EU in terms of how to further develop a supranatural organization. That is an organization that transcends borders. And then when you look at the EU for this example, you can look at what they do good and the mistakes that they make. And so actually the GCC is in a very good situation to learn from others as well. And we can't also forget about organizations in Asia such as the ASEAN organization, and they've also been a model that the GCC strives to learn from as well. So of course the world is a lot more connected now, even if there's a populace that might not like the situation as well. So this is unavoidable, to be honest too.
All right. Now, the upcoming GCC summit is to be held next month, the GCC summit is going to be held next month and is set to further expand fields of cooperation among the member states. Can you tell us about the importance of holding the GCC summit? Even previously, we've seen a lot of decisions have come out of those, but right now in the depth, or we're just in the face of a lot of challenges. I mean, there war, economic issues. How important is a summit like this right now?
Oh, these summits are paramount, I would say, and not only because where the GCC is developing as an organization, but also for the greater region, because there's a lot of uncertainty now. And actually it's very interesting that Bahrain is playing a pivotal role within supporting a GCC union policies, because Bahrain actually has very long history in alliance management and alliance building. This spans for over hundreds of years now. And actually Bahrain is relying on this experience and their cordial relations with all the GCC states and regional neighbors as well to really push forward the GCC union. So now it's coming at a very pivotal role because the uncertainty has skyrocketed for the past 10 years. And in order to create appropriate policies between the 6 GCC member states, it's actually important to streamline how to develop these policies in the first place. And the GCC union, while it might be comprehensive at times, it actually help ensure that all the 6 GCC member states are able to pursue their interests in a very meaningful way between all the members.
Have all 6 countries always been part of the summits?
Well, they've always had a presence, obviously, but maybe at different levels in terms of their protocols. But obviously, all the members will be there, and they'll all eyes and ears will be very wide open to see how the summit develops and what are the resolutions that will come out or any decisions. Because in the end, this will affect all the countries. And while it's actually a very strong point that we have a very common history that is intertwined and ancient in nature, and common language and religion as well plays a very strong aspect that we are able to communicate with each other on such a deep and intimate level. This may not be the case for other regions. For instance, in Europe, you have a lot of different languages and cultures,
Yes.
but they are able to set aside these differences and communicate on a level that makes sense to all of them. Whereas for the GCC, we all have this common background now, so we can actually use this as a strength to forward creating a union between the 6 states as well.
Great. Now that we've identified the challenges with you, Mr. AbdulGhaffar, we're now going to turn to Mrs. Cinzia Bianco, an analyst for Euro-Gulf Information Center and a PhD candidate at the University of Exeter. Hello, Ms. Bianco. How are you?
Hello to you. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. How do you see the GCC's role in dealing with regional challenges?
Well, actually, a stronger GCC could definitely be more able to face up to the challenges that the region is going through. It's a quite unstable period for the whole world, definitely, but in particular for the region, it seems that each state is going through a number of threats and challenges. Mm-hmm. So I would say that a stronger GCC is definitely more able to face up to these challenges. At the same time, as we all know, there are challenges in creating stronger multilateral bodies. And although I do agree with what my colleague was saying before, that definitely the region shares strong historical and identity bonds, so it is set on the path to create a successful multilateral, stronger body. At the same time, there are challenges that need to be carefully thought through.
Yes. Ms. Bianco, you mentioned a stronger GCC. Does that pertain to the security issue?
Can you say it again, sorry?
You were talking about a stronger GCC. Does that also pertain to the security challenges? Is it the stronger security that is needed?
Yes. A stronger GCC, what I mean is a stronger bond among the GCC countries. So even more cooperation in the terms of security, as well as in political initiatives, as well as in economic initiatives. So my idea when I say stronger is that more coordinated, more united.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Ms. Bianco, no, we talked about the challenges with Mr. AbdulGhaffar, and the number one challenge that seems to cover everything is always the security challenges that are facing the region. Can you give us your opinion on that?
It's tough to say what is number one, because they are all very much intertwined. There's definitely the strong challenge and threat coming from Iranian interference in the region. At the same time, the disintegration of the state system is a very big challenge for the GCC governments, which are, as we know, an island of stability in a region that is basically disintegrating state structures. And at the same time, also the threat coming from terrorism and terrorist groups, and the fact that they have the power to attract recruits from all around the region, including the GCC countries, is a terrible concern. The sectarianism, which can raise the temperature within the national societies of the GCC countries, is also a very big concern. Unfortunately, we live in a time where there are many threats that are coming from several directions, and they are all intertwined. Because if I could point to one, it is the disintegration of the state system that it seems to me the biggest one, because it's what encourages, on one hand, the interference of Iran into trying to take advantage of this disintegration to extend its own influence, but it is also what encourages terrorist groups to try with violence to even disintegrate the system even more and try to carve out whatever power they can do from that. And it is what is disappointing citizens and raising the sectarian tensions inside states, of course, more so in the neighboring countries such as Iraq.
Neighboring countries is actually what I want to talk about. I mean, these interferences from Iran and the militias that are available. The war in Yemen has taken a very big toll on the GCC.
Yes, absolutely. The war in Yemen is a huge challenge for the GCC. It's one of the very first times that the GCC countries are actively engaged in a conflict. And it seems very complicated in terms of its political and diplomatic shape. There have been initiatives, and GCC countries have been very active in trying to support them. There is little doubt to me that Saudi Arabia and the other GCC countries would definitely like to get to a negotiated solution as soon as possible. At the same time, there is a lot at stake, and it's tough for the GCC countries and for Saudi Arabia in particular to agree to a solution that would be perceived as a defeat. And hence why the situation is very complex in Yemen, and it seems tough to get to a negotiated solution in a short period of time.